And let's see, my camp name is Gandalf, and I got that because of the big beard primarily, but also just because I like to, lead little people around. And my favorite camp activity is probably, I really like the quiet stuff and the contemplative stuff. So just kind of like going on a hike or walking through the labyrinth that we have up in our chapel space. Those are some of my favorite things to do at camp. And I will invite Marty to go next.
Thanks, Donovan. Hi, everyone. My name is Marty Beck, and I'm the Executive Director for Paradise Point Summer Camp. And my camp name is Falcon Crest. Falcon Crest would be the golf course Falcon Crest compared to the mid-'80s evening primetime soap opera show that I've been also notified that associates with. But I've been the executive director for Paradise Point for the last 13 years, and I'm glad that we can see so many friendly faces here. There's some people that I actually recognize over here. Hi, buddy. But also just to start to get us all acquainted with the staff. You're going to hear a lot of different things that are happening up at camp throughout this whole entire place. But we're just really glad that you're excited to be with us, and I will pass it off on to Tessa. Nope, you're on mute still, Tessa.
All right, can you hear me now?
There you go.
Okay. My name is Tessa. I'm the camp registrar administrative assistant. My camp name is Bionica because I have a lot of metal in my body. And I don't yet have a very favorite camp activity. I think I like swimming though. And I think I'll like axe throwing when I do it.
That reminds me that I didn't tell you my favorite activity, because it started with archery, and then we added some axe throwing, and now but our target sports range, we have a slingshot range too. So we are into the target sport. So that's definitely one of my favorite activities at camp. Well, great. Well, thank you all for being here. As Megan said, as you were joining in, we would just, as we get near the end, and if there's still some questions that you have that are going along in your heads, that you can always type those in the chat function. And that's at the lower bottom. If you open that up, we'll have people monitoring those questions for you if we need to elaborate on any specific topic that we're going on. That'll be the quickest way for us to be able to see that you have a question. Instead of raising your hand, oftentimes we're going to be sharing our screen along the way, so we may not see that hand raised. So if you could put that in the chat box, that'll help us out. We will take a brief pause at the end of each section just to make sure that we've answered any questions and provide any other answers. We'll ask that y'all kind of keep your microphone on mute for a little while. That will help us and with background noise and the rest that goes on with this. But if there are specific questions and we need to call on you, we'll ask you to unmute at that time. One biggest thing that I want you all to realize is that we're excited to see you. We want to be able to give you as much information as possible. There is a lot of information that goes into coming to a summer camp. One of the key documents that I want to just clue your attention to is what we call the Registered Camper Information Packet. That Registered Camper Info Packet is automatically emailed to you upon the completion of your email of your registration and the process that you have gone through to complete that. It'll also have some other additional information that'll have, that are important. So keep that email, probably star it or put it in a folder so that you can revisit that email. It talks about the cabin list, or the packing list. It talks about the arrival times and departure times. It really does cover a lot of info. And so that some of that info that you've maybe seen in that Registered Camper Info Packet, if you've reviewed it, is going to be covered over here today, but we'll get into a little more specifics as we go through it. Right off the bat, I'd like to let you know that Paradise Point is an American Camp Association accredited camp. The American Camp Association we refer to as ACA, so you'll hear us say a lot of different times what we have to do to comply with our ACA standards. But the ACA itself, the American Camp Association, was founded in 1910, and it established an accreditation process in 1948, which sets high industry standards in all areas around camp. It involves a rigorous annual compliance and also extensive site visits every 3 years. It's a network of camps that is part of Paradise Continuous Improvement model, and we are always learning, we're always sharing. We have, because it's a network of other camps and we get to visit other camps as well, we get to learn some of the best practices that we can apply to our own camp as well. It's all about education. There are 2,500 camps accredited nationwide, and Paradise Point is one of 6 accredited camps in Idaho. But we are also networking with those non-accredited camps to bring them into the opportunity of what the accreditation offers. The main areas of camp that we really evaluate are our facilities, our food service, our transportation policies, health and wellness processes, operational management, human resources, program development, and aquatics and other high-risk activities like our archery range and our ropes course. There are stringent standards that apply to all those different programming areas, and we like to keep up with all of them and make sure that we are keeping our camp as safe as we possibly can. Paradise Point has been accredited since 2011, and as just a point of a point of clarification, ACA has a wealth of information for parents as well. As you start to prepare your young ones to come up to a summer camp, the anxiety of for the young ones coming up is one level of anxiety, but the anxiety for parents that send their campers up to camp is a whole nother level of anxiety. And so we want to be able to offer this as another resource. And ACA on their website has a specific section just for parents and campers alone to talk about what it's like to get prepared for camp. What other conversations can you have preparing for homesickness and that type of stuff? But ACA does have a wealth of information that is provided for both us and for parents. I'm going to turn it over here to Megan now, and she's going to talk to us about our staffing.
Thanks. So we take very seriously the responsibility of caring for your child, and we do that through hiring and retaining the best quality staff that we can. So all of our staff are either 18 years old, or if they are 17, they have previous childcare experience, including maybe they've engaged in our camp leadership development program and have been previous junior staff. We use an application process that evaluates the person's interest in working with youth in a faith-based summer camp, and we do a virtual face-to-face interview with every applicant. We also have complete a national background check on every applicant, and we hold checked references on file. So we do our due diligence to make sure that the people we're hiring, we know they're going to be a good fit. We know that they're going to be great staff members, and that they're going to be able to have a wonderful summer as well. So staff members attend up to a week and a half of staff training before campers even arrive that address risk management, positive behavior management, age-based characteristics, program instruction and implementation, child abuse identification and prevention training, and much more. Staff members working with youth are all CPR and first aid certified. We do that as a part of our staff training and participate in a nationally recognized child abuse identification and prevention training called Safe Church, as well as complete the camp mental health training by Lead Inc., which is something that this is our second year doing some specific mental health training for our staff. So specialized staff have additional certifications and requirements that they complete, including our lifeguards that are open water lifeguard certified, our ropes course who are ropes course certified, belay certified, pardon me, and our target sports folks who get archery, axe throwing, and slingshot certified. Our food handlers permits are things that all of our kitchen staff have, and serve safe for our kitchen coordinator. Oop. A little bit too far. So I'm going to pass it back to Marty. Just a moment.
Thank you, Megan. Well, a little bit about our communication and emails. You're going to be receiving some emails as you get closer to camp. They're kind of spaced out about 2 weeks prior to and a week prior to that will start to help you understand how to prepare you and yourself and you and your camper for camp. There's a frequently asked questions list, as well as a packing list and arrival day procedures. But as we mentioned too, one of the best sources of information is our website. And so I'm sharing just our homepage right here. And under our youth and teen camps, it's going to give you quite a bit of information about what we really, our transportation and directions, also is scholarship information, if that's something that you're looking for. But I'll draw your attention to our frequently asked questions and tips and tricks. Within our frequently asked questions are the answers that we are oftentimes giving when we are triaging our phone calls from parents and guardians as they're getting ready for preparing their campers. So it really does talk about what to expect when you are when you're dropping your camper off. It also talks about how you can send mail. Are we going to allow cell phones? What activities the campers can participate in? What is Brown Bear? You're going to hear a little bit about Brown Bear. That's our camp store, or kind of a canteen. So I'll just draw your attention to our website that really will give you all the information you need before you need to start finding the phone number or making phone calls and finding out from your friends what to do on transportation days and those type of things. Our health forms and waivers, we use an e-signature process for all of our online health forms. We keep hard copies of the waivers for Yahoo Corrals, which is our horseback riding outfitter, and Bear Valley, which is our outfitter for the rafting. But we'd like to make sure that our parents revisit the health form online to make sure that it's accurate. Sometimes parents are registering their camper in November and things change over the 6 months prior to camp. So we would like to make sure that the health form is accurate and up to date for your arrival. And we just understand that things can change on a weekly basis, and we want to be best prepared to treat your camper if that comes up. I'm going to now pass it back over to Tessa and stop my screen share. And she's going to share some information on our UltraCamp website to be able to direct you onto those key items, especially with email purchases and things like that.
So one of the fun things about being a parent is you can follow your kid along while you're at home without them. If you want to go ahead and buy emails to have some sort of communication, then you're going to want to go to your account and go to the message center on your account. And you can go ahead and purchase emails there, email purchases. I think, and you can get 5 for $15. And actually, am I saying that right? Yep. And then we also have access to photos, which we try to keep up to date every other day as it allows for our staff. And you'll be able to see your camper, if not every day, by the end of the week.
I'm going to do a really quick correction. Pardon me. It's $5 for 15 emails. So you could send.
Oh, $5 for 15 emails. That sounds about right. Yeah. Thank you.
And those could be shared between friend accounts. They get printed off and handed to campers at mail call. So they come with the rest of the mail. And it's a nice way and an easy way for you to send a little bit of love from home without sending a stamp.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, I'll hand it back over to Donovan. Thank you.
Perfect. My lagging just a little bit, so I was just making sure that homesickness slide was up. So that will be our next big topic, probably something that everyone's thinking about if you're sending your camper to a sleepaway camp for the first time, or to our camp for the first time, which is probably why you're here at the new family orientation. So one thing that we like to talk about for our sleepaway youth camps is that the best way to work on any sort of behavior that you might expect of your camper at camp is to be proactive about how to manage and prepare them for it. So homesickness is one of the things that we make sure all of our staff are trained on. On top of our mental health training, we have homesickness specific training, and it's something that we are well versed in figuring out with our campers to make sure that they have the best experience at camp. So when we talk about preventing homesickness before it happens, one of the big things that we're looking at is to give campers the ownership of their choices to go to camp. So ways that we think about doing that would be making sure that they're involved in the packing process. Like you maybe make sure that they get 5 shirts, but let them pick out which 5 shirts those are. Make sure that they get their jacket, but which jacket do they want? Which towel is the one that they want to use at the beach? Those sorts of things. We like to make sure that we reinforce that they are able to make it through this week of camp. And if they feel doubts about that, just let them know that our camp staff are here to help, and they are compassionate people, and we make sure that we hire those compassionate people. And that our campers are capable and strong, and we'll remind them of it all of the time. That we really focus on the strength approach of it. Camp can be challenging for the first time, and we recognize that with our campers and make sure that they know that they can do hard things, and sometimes camp can be a hard thing. Another thing that we like to suggest is to manage expectations. So what we mean by that is that, like I said, camp can be a hard thing, which is to say that, their first day, they might not get along with all of the kids in their cabin. They might get along with one and not with another. It's kind of a mixed bag. So letting them know that camp can be both or all. It can be something that has temporary challenges and overall kind of satisfaction and joy. And that there may be activities that they see that we do that they're like, I don't want to do that. I do not want to get in the water. That's totally fine too. We make sure that they have a space to choose the activities that they want to do. And if they end up in an activity that they don't want to do, that they have kind of an accommodation for something that does meet their needs. And then sort of planning ahead what would happen if a camper does get sick is very important. So a communication plan would be something like giving campers an envelope and a letter that's pre-stamped and pre-addressed, because usually if campers address a letter to themselves, they'll just write to mom at home, which does not normally work with the postal office. We do try and give a once over to those letters before they leave camp to make sure that they are properly addressed, but the easiest way to make sure that happens is to write that for your camper. We like to give them that chance to, if they are experiencing homesickness, to kind of journal about it. And then sending a letter home is kind of like a journal with, a mission to be able to, you can then sit with them when they get home and be like, oh, I see all these things that you enjoyed at camp. I'm sorry you were feeling bad, but look at all this cool stuff you did. And I'm so excited about that. One thing that we try to, sorry, just brain fart. Other things that sometimes work is comfort items, a favorite blanket, a favorite stuffed animal, all of those sorts of things. And often our staff have those with them too, because one thing that we like to remind campers is that our staff are away from home for the summer too, and that they are, using their own strategies. We have 5 staff this summer that are coming from overseas, 4 from Hungary, or 3 from Hungary, 1 from Mexico, and 1 from South Africa. So they are very far away from home, and they probably have their own tips and tricks about how to work on their own homesickness. The one thing that we will suggest we have families avoid would be something called a pickup deal. So this is like, if you make it halfway through camp, then I will, be willing to pick you up. What it ends up being is kind of a target fixation. So the camper will be like, okay, halfway through camp is Wednesday. So I just have to have a terrible time until Wednesday, and then I'll be able to go. But what we want to focus on is them having that every day being a successful day to the most of their ability. And that pickup deal becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they already know that they can go home, so that they're already thinking that they will go home. So we try and make it so that we do all of these other steps that are proactive, but are careful about what we do that is reactive, because ultimately it is important for us to see the severity of homesickness before we have a camper contact home. That's kind of one of our last steps in kind of the flow chart, is because children get more homesick after they hear their parents' voice. So we try and make sure that that's kind of one of the last options that we do. Okay, and then the last thing that we want to address is parent homesickness. So like Marty or Megan was saying earlier, I don't remember who, it's going to be an anxious time for the parents that are sending their kids away, regardless of if you've done this at another camp before or not. So one things that we like to do is, because we because we're camp directors, we run all over camp every day to make sure that everything's happening smoothly. We're not always in the office to answer our phone call, but we will receive those messages and be able to get back to you within the next day with what we call a camper check-in. So this is your ability to say, hey, I'm just checking on how my camper is doing. And then we will get back to you by the same day if it's received in the morning, or the next day if it's received in the evening. And that's at our camp phone number, which is on the website. We'll have a staff member that's close to that camper kind of give us a report on how that camper is doing, and we'll pass that on to you. And that's just kind of our in-between step to make sure that, again, that we're giving that camper the opportunity to have the best day possible. And sometimes hearing directly from home doesn't jive with that. So we make sure that we check in with them and just be like, hey, how's your week going? What activities do you like? And then we can kind of pass that information on to you. And then next, we're going to talk about lost and found.
Thanks, Donovan. So you can imagine at summer camp that we've got quite a stockpile of towels. So there's no need to worry about putting more than one towel in your camper's bag, because if they end up misplacing one, we have more available, always clean, always folded and ready to go. But the biggest thing for us is that would help us is to make sure that all of your belongings and your camper's belongings are labeled. We ask that you don't send any valuables or hard to clean items or those type of things where we can't be responsible for those, although we have a lot of systems in place at camp to make sure that belongings stick with their campers, and that if they do get misplaced at any point, we have a nice little a lost and found fashion show at the end of the week, right before they pack up their bags on the second to last day. We'll make sure that we walk down an aisle with all the lost and found that we found throughout the week, and hopefully we can get those back into those bags. But then also, if you're picking up your camper on site at Paradise Point, we're going to have a lost and found table as well. Sometimes those items just don't get claimed, a random water bottle or a hat that they forgot they even packed. And so there'll be a table set on the side for parents to kind of peruse and make sure that any of those lost and found items are brought home as well. One of the biggest things that Donovan mentioned about, also campers sending letters home, but also sending packages and letters to your camper at camp. We'll do mail call, like Megan said, every single day. We do that during lunch. And so we pick up the mail from the post office in McCall. We don't have a delivery service for the USPS on site. UPS and FedEx does deliver on site. But we do pick up that mail every day before lunch, and we distribute that at lunch. We do have a really cool camp tradition at camp of being thrown into the lake if you receive a package or 3 letters. Now that's an option. Many campers want to take that option, but as Donovan said, it's all challenged by choice at camp. But if they decide that they don't want to get thrown into the lake, there are other types of things that we can have them do. Maybe they want to sing a song in front of the crowd. Some people are willing to do that. But if they don't feel like doing anything, they can also nominate any one of the staff members to get thrown in the lake on their behalf. So that's oftentimes where myself and the other directors go, is a nice cool off on those package days. But it's a pretty fun tradition that we still stick with, and it's and something fun you can join in as well. One thing about our packages we want to make sure you understand is that we are in the forest. We are in cabins that are fairly rustic. They have screens and they have doors and they have windows and they're sealed up. But that doesn't mean that the chipmunks can't find their way in, and they will find their way in through duffel bags and sleeping bags and everything else to get to food. So we ask that no food, candy, any of that type of stuff is sent in any of our care packages. But then we have suggestions of including cards and games, Mad Libs, coloring books, glow-in-the-dark toys are really fun for campers to play with their cabin mates with. Water toys, books, notebooks for autographs and stickers and pens. Those type of things are really probably a little more beneficial for the campers, where that they don't have to lose out on the food that comes in or any candy that comes in. We also have an opportunity, if when you show up at camp, to be able to, parents can drop off the campers' care packages with us, and we've been labeled the date that we wanted those to be distributed, so that if for some reason if you didn't make it to the post office in time, or you have that opportunity to, as you during check-in, can actually drop off the box with us as well. Let's see. Yep. You can find our PO box on the website as well. It does take several days for mail to get up to McCall, and so I would just plan ahead as we as you start to think about camp coming up. Oftentimes, if it gets sent out on Monday and it doesn't arrive till Wednesday or Thursday, and we don't get the campers package to them, that's a hard explanation. So we just ask that you send those a few days early, so that we can make sure your camper gets their packages. Okay. Donovan, I think it's back to you for some camp store, some brown bear.
Yeah, thank you. So our camp store is called Brown Bear. You can see the picture of it on the shared screen on the left. It's just a little one-room cabin that we kind of converted to our general store for camp. Campers usually get specific times throughout the day that they're allowed to use Brown Bear. Usually it's paired with like waterfront or high activity times, so that if they do get something sugary or something nutritious and empowering, then they can burn that off right away. But it's a fun place that we like to invite the campers into. We do have the ability to do store deposits. So that's online as part of the registration process, or you can go back into your Realtor Camp account and add it at a later date. Also, when you have your camper dropped off at camp or at the bus, you can provide cash at that point, and we can deposit it into their account. We usually recommend to do about $2 a day, so $10 to $15 a week, given how many days of camps the camper will be there for. But if the camper is staying over for multiple weeks of camp, then it might be good to add a lot of money at the start, or to kind of see how much they use in a week and then kind of get basic on that. If you are planning to have them be able to buy our higher priced items, our merchandise, because our snacks and our drinks are usually about $1 a piece, but the sweaters, our stuffed animals, we have cool hats, water bottles, all of those sorts of things with our camp branding on them, those will be more expensive. So just kind of plan out for how much money you're able to let your camper spend on their own. We do have an online store system, and we're hopeful to get it to work properly this summer. Last summer, we had some snafus with getting it set up the first time, but we're hopeful that you'll be able to see how much your camper is spending throughout the week, and then be able to add more money if they start to run out. And then at the end of the week, any balance left over that's less than $15 will be donated to the Camper Scholarship Fund. But balances can be transferred to siblings or family members attending future camp sessions, as long as we have plenty of lead time notice about that sort of thing. And then parents and guardians have the option to donate balances over $15 to the Camper Scholarship Fund, or have balances refunded via check. And I think that's it on Brown Bear. I'll pass it back to Megan for arrival and departure day.
I apologize. Here are some of the other merchandise that will be available. This year's stuffed animal is a little owl. Okay, I am going to be chatting about arrival day. So on arrival day, drop off begins at 3 p.m. So you'll meet, if you're dropping off your camper yourself, you'll meet a staff member at the top of our driveway off of East Side Drive. Our driveway is quite narrow and long, as you'll see. So we have a staff member at the top and the bottom that manage the traffic so that you don't end up nose to nose with someone and have to make a questionable turn or off to the side on our lovely, scenic, long and narrow driveway. The bus will arrive at 4:30 typically, depending on traffic, and they'll come on down. We prioritize getting our bus or our van in, but there can be a kind of a long line of cars queued up to turn into camp if you're arriving early, because our staff does need to make sure that we're prepared to welcome everybody, and we don't open that gate until 3 p.m. on arrival day. So after you've made it down the driveway and parked, you're gonna greet our staff. You'll see Donovan and myself at check-in, and we'll say hello, make sure we've got all your health forms and waivers all checked in, signed online ahead of time. And we'll chat with you if you want to add any money to your Brown Bear account, and make sure that everything is good, balances are all set. Then you'll head over to our health center and meet our nurse. Nurse Nancy, I don't know that she's chosen a camp name yet, is going to be our nurse with us for the entirety of our youth camp this summer, which is very exciting for us. There you'll get to meet her. She'll make sure camper is feeling a-okay and ready for camp. We do have a lice check as a part of our welcome process. So make sure you're not bringing any extra campers into camp. And this is also where you'll drop off any medications that the camper has. And we are requesting that all of our families this year pre-pack medications in a tamper evident bubble or blister pack. And those can be done through your local pharmacy, Albertsons and CVS. Do them with advance notice and can do them for 1 week at a time or 2 weeks, depending on how long your camper is visiting with us. You can also purchase those items via Amazon and pre-pack your own bubble pack at home. Just make sure that the prescription information goes up along with the medications to camp so that we can double check, confirm, yep, this is prescribed to this person, and yep, that's what this medication is. We will hopefully have staff available to do that medication packaging on site as well. But all of this is to say, like I shared, we take responsibility for your camper very seriously. We have up to 100 campers on camp at any given day. And so that means 100 different medical needs and things that we need to keep track of. So this is one way that we are working really diligently to help make those medications, make sure that they get distributed on time, that they are correct, and to do the best that we can to make sure that your camper is very safe and healthy while they are with us. So after you've met with Nurse Nancy and checked in, then campers will hang out and meet their cabins. Campers won't go directly to their cabins until the whole cabin, or at least the vast majority of the cabin, has arrived. That way there's no fisticuffs to get the top bunk, that everyone has an equal opportunity to share in that kind of joy. Once the camper, all of the campers in a cabin are together, they'll go through some arrival day rotations. We'll get their pictures taken so that we have accurate information on every camper. They'll create some cabin rules. As you can see, this flag has some cabin rules that are going to be posted in their cabin for the duration of their stay. And go have a tour of camp and familiarize themselves with the property if they haven't been up here before. And of course, we'll play some games and make some name tags. So we are always working to make this a fun experience. So those are just some of the arrival day procedures that you can expect on the first day of camp. And now we're moving on to the Melancholy Departure Day. So on the last day of camp, campers will have packed up all their items, hopefully before breakfast. We'll have a big breakfast. Usually it's a giant cinnamon roll on the last day of camp. We'll take a picture, make sure we've run through our lost and found. And departure is at 10 a.m. on the last day. Between 10 a.m. and noon. If for any reason you get held up in traffic or something happens, calling that camp office and just letting us know to expect you a little bit later is always helpful. But we do try to keep those times really to the time that we say it is, because that's also our staff does then have other tasks that they need to complete to deep clean camp before it is ready for the next group of campers in between. So we'll take our camp picture, sing some farewell songs, and then we have a H line. We say goodbye with a hug or a high five or a handshake or a howdy do, depending on the camper's preference. So that's what you can expect for departure day. If you are picking up your camper from camp on departure day, you must have a valid ID that we can verify that you are on the approved pickup list for this camper, that you are that person. And that's how we, again, make sure and take care for your camper and make sure that we're keeping everybody safe. Which means if at the last minute, someone else is going to be picking up your camper, we need that information. We will not release campers to any other adult other than the people who are on the authorized pickup list as is defined in your registration process. So you can make those changes in UltraCamp and add as many people to the approved pickup list as you'd like. But if they're not on the approved pickup list, we will not release a camper to that person. So that is just an important piece of information to know. Moving on, some campers depart by bus or arrive by bus. This year, we will have a mixture of bus and van, depending on the number of campers. So being good stewards of the Episcopal Church in Idaho's support of Paradise Point Camp, sometimes it's not always prudent to get a bus for 4 people. And we are really excited that this year we have a 15-person van that can hold up to 12 campers, and it has AC, very exciting. So it may be a bus, it may be a van, kind of depends on how many people are coming up. Transportation is available from Pocatello, Jerome, Boise, and Horseshoe Bend. That's to and from camp in McCall. A staff member rides the bus, and we also have another wonderful staff member that is our camp driver. Her name is Wheels. So we are making sure that those spaces are safe and that everyone is maybe not comfortable, but can make it for those long trips. So if you are a person who is sending your camper to camp from Pocatello or Jerome, please make sure to pack a lunch. Water will be provided, but we won't be providing lunch on the way from your home to camp, but we will provide lunch on the way from camp to your home. So we'll pack some sandwiches for them. At, oops, too far, apologies. At any of the bus stops or van stops, Pocatello, Jerome, Boise, Horseshoe Bend, a staff member on the bus will greet you, greet your camper. They'll collect any medications that are, again, pre-packed in those blister packs and any brown bear money. And in Boise, you'll get to see Tessa and greet her, and she will greet you if you are a person who is using our camp provided transportation to or from Boise. And that transportation information, if you're like, wait, what's the location? What time is that supposed to be at? And that's all in that website under youth camps and in the transportation and directions. So, and that's the best place to find that information later on if you need it. It is also in your camper information packet. Okay, now I'm gonna pass it off to Donovan.
Awesome. So at this point, you're probably wondering, after you know what the beginning and ends, the book ends are like, what are the chapters like in the middle? So a typical day of camp starts at 7:30 in the morning when our morning wake up bell rings. We've got a real big bell that rings 6 to 8 times for every transition time. So that's kind of the chance to make sure that everyone's on the same page, that breakfast is coming in 30 minutes. And that's very important because it's breakfast. Who doesn't like food? After breakfast, by around 9:30, we head up to our chapel or to another kind of set up place for our morning celebration. We do chapel twice every day, and usually we kind of set a theme for those days where campers kind of reflect on something like love or compassion or a specific story from the Bible. And then at the end of the day, kind of reflect on that together as a cabin or as all camp. So that's about 30 minutes of morning celebration. And then we move into what we call cabin cleanup. Cabin cleanup is our chance for campers to kind of reset their space every day. So, as they go throughout the day, maybe they start with a jacket on, they take that jacket off, they switch from pants to swim shorts, they switch from swim shorts back to pants. There's a whole bunch of opportunity for clothes to not end up where they need to end up. So this is that dedicated time where we make sure we reset that space. And we also make it fun by making it a competition. We do what we call the golden dustpan. So this is our campers' opportunity for whoever's cabin gets judged the cleanest gets to go first at lunch for that day. And sometimes first at dinner if they do an extremely exceptional job. And campers get really into this, such as making decorative walkways, little fairy villages, all of those sorts of things. But it's also their time to get ready for their morning activities that they're going to do right after that. So from 10 to 12:30 every day is some scheduled program activity blocks. And all of our programs are kind of set up where some of those programs will be chosen for the campers based on what staff we have for those programs and how we want to make sure that certain activities everyone gets to do. Like everyone has an hour where they meet with a camp staff in the small setting to have a more close-knit conversation about chapel type topics about religion or God or praying in general. We make sure that everyone has a chance to get on the waterfront, those sorts of things. And then that kind of leads us into 12:30, which is our lunch time. Lunch is also when we do mail call. So for any mail that's arrived by that morning, we have someone go into town and pick up mail almost every day if we can make it happen. We have that mail distributed. And then one thing that's cool about that lunchtime kind of reminds me of is we mentioned earlier how our staff are ServSafe certified. We make sure that every person that's serving food in our kitchen has a food handler certification. And we do operate under like a commercial kitchen license, which means that we have strict rules about our cleanliness procedures, about where things are stored, about how often we clean things, all of those sorts of things, so that everyone's having a good, healthy meal and experience. Yeah, after mail call at the end of lunch, towards the end of lunch, on specific days we do our toss-ins into the lake. So we make sure that campers have the opportunity to ask the counselor to go into the lake for them if they so choose, or to choose to go in on their own. Each camper is allowed to have one toss into the lake. We do the last day that we do toss-ins, we allow volunteers. So if they didn't receive a package, they're allowed to volunteer themselves to be tossed into the lake, which some campers are very excited for. And then after lunch and mail call and throw-ins or toss-ins, we do toes up. that is our camp nap time. Sometimes that, because your toes go up into the air when you lay down. For some campers, that means reading a book. For some, that means writing in a journal. For some, it means just kind of, sleeping, which is awesome. And it's just kind of that time to relax during the heat of the day, and to get energy up again for our afternoon activities that happen from 2:30 to 6:30. And in that time, our campers are also doing cabin connections, which is an opportunity for them to do team building within their cabin. Because sometimes their activities split them up with campers from all over camp. Sometimes they stay with their cabin. It kind of varies based on what activity they're doing. So this is kind of their chance to make sure that they have a specific, well thought out opportunity to talk to each other in their cabin through like an interactive activity, such as doing an element on our low ropes course under trained supervision. And then after those afternoon activities, we go right into dinner at 6:30. After dinner is our evening reflection. So that's our return to a chapel space and our, connection with the spirituality at camp. And oh, I'm kind of echoing. That's funny. We also make sure that we have a campfire, if not every night, then every other night. And that's our chance to get together and sing silly songs, perform silly skits through the staff or our older teen leadership campers who love to get into camp. And then after campfire or all camp game, whichever that night has, kind of those big community events that we love to make sure camp has. Then we have cabin time, which is, we call that cabin devotions, which is the campers' chance to kind of talk with their cabin about how their day has gone. Often it's a theme like rosebuds and thorns. So what was something that was beautiful about your day? What was something that you hope for tomorrow? What was something that was maybe not so great about your day that you hope doesn't happen tomorrow? And that just gives them a chance to reflect, which sometimes we want to make sure that our campers have that time, because you get so wrapped up in go, go, go that you kind of need the chance to think. And then by 10 or 10:30, depending on what activities we're doing throughout the day, we have all camp lights out, get ready for bed, sleep, and then we go again the next day at 7:30 for wake up. Some other important things to know about camp and our camp activities is that no camper will enter the water before either completing the swim test or being marked that they haven't completed the swim test. And our swim test has kind of 3 levels. So in order to test, we have our H dock that's set up in the water. They have to do, the first part is to swim 4 lengths. So 1, 2, 3, 4 in that dock. And that gets them to be a yellow water swimmer, which is kind of our medium level depth of water that's still protected within the H dock. And then if they can go on from that to tread water for 2 minutes, then they get to be a red water swimmer, which means that they can go in the section that's still within our protected boundaries, but it's a little bit deeper water. And that's a red water swimmer. And then a green water swimmer is someone who either didn't complete the swim test or didn't complete it to a lifeguard's preference of passing. So, and yeah, that way we make sure that our campers are safe in the water that they're in. Some camp activities, there's a huge list there. These are kind of our go-to ones: hiking, canoeing, log rolling, free swim, Wibbit, ceramics, arts and crafts, tie-dye, high ropes, low ropes, team building, fishing, mountain boarding, stand-up paddleboard, tubing, axe throwing, archery, guitar, and more. So during our week of staff training, we make sure our staff have experience in the activities that they are going to lead throughout the summer so that they can get those done in the best way possible. We have a bunch of staff this summer who are super into music. And it looks like someone asked about life jackets. We have life jackets. We have a bunch of life jackets. And we actually require that life jackets are worn whenever campers are on in using any of our watercraft. So that's all of our canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddleboards, etc. And then there's dedicated daily time for spiritual connection, cabin devotions, to kind of participate in the spiritual formation part of an Episcopal summer camp. And that's kind of our overview of what a typical day of camp might be like. It may sound like a lot, and it's because it is a lot. We make sure to use every hour of camp to the best of our ability to make sure these kids have an amazing experience. I will pass it on to Megan for the next part.
Thank you. I'm going to talk really quickly about our COVID safety protocols, and I want to acknowledge first that may change, always is with all things and all things COVID. We plan for the best that we can, but you can't plan for everything. But we do have some protocols in place. We were able to operate last year in 2021. We had some additional protocols and restrictions in place, and we were very grateful and proud that we didn't have any COVID cases as a part of our summer camp operations for our youth camps. So we know that we can keep kids safe, and we are confident that we can do that again this year. So we've learned a lot as we all have collectively, about how to keep ourselves healthy, about how to do some basic protocols as to keeping people well. So we will follow all local and state ordinances. We have partnered with the Central District Health Office here in Valley County in McCall, and they have given us a bunch of COVID rapid antigen tests that we will have on camp. We will use a COVID rapid test for anyone who presents with COVID symptoms, just to make sure that they are not COVID positive. We do have some isolation spaces. We have a lot of masks, but if there was someone that was COVID positive, we have isolation spaces available, and then we'd be giving you a ring-a-ding-ding that your camper might not be feeling so hot. So that we have a lot of those on hand, and we are very grateful for that. So if Ada or Valley County reaches the high community level as defined by the CDC, we will use those rapid antigen tests as screening tests upon arrival for everybody. That's another way that we are preparing. Hopefully we don't have to go into that, but we are preparing to make sure that we can operate camp safely. We encourage everyone to be vaccinated. It is not a requirement of campers nor staff, but we do encourage everyone to be vaccinated, and you can get those vaccinations today if you go into your local pharmacy or Central District Health. So that's kind of our COVID safety protocols. And if you have further questions, the website will be as up to date as possible. Things haven't changed since March when we put these plans in place, but the best laid plans are even subject to change. So that is our COVID safety information.
Great. Well done, Megan and Donovan. Here we are nearing the end of our hour, and I just wanted to clue us in on a couple different ways that you all can totally stay up to date on what's happening at the camp. We mentioned that we're going to try our best to do the photos up on your Ultra Camp webpage, in your Ultra Camp account. We are limited a little bit with our bandwidth out at the end of the point, so we typically try to do as much as we can on our social media site. So make sure you try to follow us at Paradise Point Camp on Facebook and Instagram. There's also a great YouTube channel. If you search Paradise Point Summer Camp, you can actually see a number of different productions that we did during 2020, when we were doing much of our camp program as a virtual camp program. And so that has some of our songs and our skits and our graces that we get to sing. You can watch those and follow along and start to learn them, and that will make that and that experience just that much more memorable, and it'll be a little more familiar with knowing some of the songs that we sing. Great. We are going to pause here for a sec. I know there's quite a few questions that were coming in the chat. I hope that you're all able to see that. Those are really great questions that we'll ultimately include in our frequently asked questions, but really wanted to express our gratitude for you all taking this hour out of your evening on this Wednesday night to join us and to meet us and to hear a little bit about what we've done to prepare for this summer, but that know that this ministry has been going on since 1938, and we are all very proud to serve. Megan, myself, and Donovan are all previous campers of Paradise Point. We grew up and we were formed at camp, and we're blessed to be able to continue the leadership process of what we consider to be one of the greatest experiences of our lives, and we'd like to pass it on to others too. So this has been a joy, and also know that if you need to contact us on any other matters, I will share my screen so I can make sure you all see that on our website under Contact Us, it does give our physical address and our summer mailing address. So if you want to send those postcards to our PO box, that's the easiest place to find that. We have our year-round diocesan office number, and then our June through August camp office number, which rings directly to the yurt that Megan and Donovan are in right now. So you can have direct contact with our office administrator that's during our seasonal office administrator up at camp, and they're able to help us with anything you need. Also an easy submittal form if you have specific questions that'll come directly to us, and we can respond that way as well. And our beautiful property up on the Upper East Side of the lake. I don't see any other questions coming in right now. I'll stop my share, but we'll let this be an opportunity. If you'd like to raise your hand or open your mic and say a few things or ask those last few questions we didn't answer, we'd be glad to take that time to do that. Seeing none, thank you very much. This has been a wonderful evening, and we hope that this gives you a little bit of a relief in preparing for you and your campers experience to come to camp. It is a really incredible experience, and we're looking forward to seeing your camper up at Paradise Point.